Welcome back. This segment will be quite quick, and it's just laying the stage for what we'll discuss in depth in just after 11 o'clock. And this is to ask my panel, what stories in the recent few weeks, few days, were missed opportunities or big mistakes in terms of the relaying of information by media? I'll start with you.
Okay, off the top of my head, I think I'll mention the Turkana thing, where we had this
Governor Nok and
the president, where they were talking about how much. And I think this has been going on for a few weeks, because I think the first person who mentioned the monies was the deputy president, when he said, I think Turkana had got 50 billion since 2013. And then I think the president, in his wisdom, mentioned it was a certain number. I think it was 40. And Nanok mentioned that it was only 33. I mean, that's a straight, simple way. I mean, it's a sexy story in itself, but it was one of those things that was dying to be fact-checked. And we actually did it as special check, and it's interesting because after all that noise that had been going on following that exchange, so-called exchange between the two of them, between the president and the governor, I was saying this was something that would have, in a way, clarified and put to shame anybody who was making an alternative truth.
But it seemed the spat was the bigger focus there.
Yeah, but
between the two.
Based on what?
Yeah. Leo?
This is something I've noticed in the newspapers, I think, over the past few months, the claim that the current government has only allocated 15% to counties. I think that's been mentioned, especially by retired Prime Minister Raila Odinga several times, and no one has actually gone back to fact check. I mean, the numbers are right there. The budgets are public data since, 2010, 2011. It's very easy to go back and verify since devolution started and counties started receiving allocations. Has it remained at a constant rate of 15%? That's something the media hasn't done. And similarly, during the doctors' strike, there's this number that just kept on going out, the 300% pay increase. I really waited for someone to work on that because that was not true. And none of the media houses went on to fact check and actually do calculations to show if that was true or not. But they kept on propagating that number almost on a daily basis for 3 months.
It's easy, and you know this from experience as you tell a story, to use a particular figure and run with it. But would you say, Kinuthia, in the defense of media, at least from my standpoint, I've had panelists who have included doctors and given them the opportunity to clarify whether it's that 300%. Would you say in that way that is a form of fact-checking, and you would be content with that?
It is a form of fact-checking, of course. And I think one of the things which Shiundu touched on is sometimes, of course, you have to appreciate that journalists might not have the kind of time that I have to do research the whole day. And so the opportunity they have then is to speak to experts or to people who made these statements and kind of try and push them to give evidence or to kind of make it very clear exactly you made this claim, how did you come to that claim? So I think there is, that doesn't happen often, but I do agree with you that there is an opportunity when you actually throw back the number to the source and push back and say, can you tell us how you got to this number? Otherwise, then we might want to put a caveat in our news that it's 300%, but we don't know how this 300% is coming about.
And I know you'll be speaking about the budget figures as well when we come back and getting into the discussion really well. Alphonce, now you're on the other side. You're on Africa Check side as the editor. But you know, do you think now that you're looking into the media industry, you still are in a way as a freelancer, but you're looking into from outside. Where have we missed the plot?
I wouldn't say you have missed, because I am a bit familiar with the operations of the newsroom and the constraints that journalists are working right now. There is the time constraint, there is the skill constraint, because the experienced people who taught us the journalism that we did went to the fact-checking side. You can see Catherine here. So after they left, and the skill set in the newsroom is not, you wouldn't say it's, they have the same skill level. There is an element of training that is required, especially for the new journalists, because you know most of the new journalists are the ones who are going out and meeting these people face to face. So when they bring information to the editor, it's somewhat difficult for the editor to start doing the legwork. So there is a sense that you need the people who are in touch, the people who are in the field. When somebody says something, they ask, okay, where is the evidence? Does it make sense? Is there logic in that flow? Do I understand this person very well? Yeah. So I wouldn't really fault, because again, when the editors are working on deadline, and as a sub-editor, we used to say, if something doesn't fit, cut it out. He will tell it tomorrow. So
and that's because you have pressure from Catherine.
Yes, because deadlines are sacred. So if you don't meet your deadline, that's a problem. Now, as a fact checker, we have the time, and we have the luxury of doing research. And if we don't understand, you see, our process is at Africa Check is I get the information, I see the claim, then I ask the person who made the claim for the evidence.
Yes.
If they don't respond, I go to the publicly available documents. We have the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. We have the university libraries. We have all these academic journals. We have independent institutions that collect data. Yes. So you get all that data and you try to make sense out of it. If you can't make sense, you find an expert to explain it to you. And you are now getting to be an expert, yes, if not already. So I'll ask you a bit more questions just before I take the quick break. Philip, as a digital humanitarian, you see the power, the positive side of you know, social media, but there's a lot of reliance now, especially picking up some of the sources from social media, and that is for mainstream media newsrooms. Are you concerned by some of the things that are picked up and run almost without
I'm actually
check?
concerned that the mainstream media in Kenya don't have a verification team. And they haven't not invested in manpower, the research, equipment, software to actually debunk some of this news online.
Is that a fact?
Yes, because some of the stories which actually run the breaking news, you actually debunk them. You find some of the photos which are used actually are from 2009, 2013. Yes. Like the drought in Turkana, Baragoi, Baringo. And even today, there are photos which are circulating of beheading in Somalia. So you find if something is trending on social media, doesn't mean it happened. So you find our media actually really, I'll say they're lazy. They actually bank on Twitter as a news source. Yes. And just because it's trending, right now we have trendsetters, people who will actually trend anything for the sake of followers, for the sake of likes. Yes. So I think media need to invest heavily on a counter verification team who actually does cross-checking for everything which happens. You can actually verify a photo, when it was taken, which year, and the last time you actually posted. I really hope my bosses, from the CEO going down, are watching this. We need a digital team for verification. It's quite necessary for the future and survival of media to win back the place of credibility.